Hey guys, what's up? It's Finch here, and I'm going to bring you guys my week 2 game for Smogon Snake Draft. Again, it's an SSOU. This time it's against a long-time friend of mine, Lycan. We played together in SPL before, and overall he's just a really great dude, so I was excited to get paired against him. He's from the United Kingdom, and unfortunately he didn't have the best World Cup of Pokemon, but he's coming off a monster SPL showing after he's traded to the Wi-Fi Wolfpack, and overall he's a good player. Definitely struggled a bit more in recent months, I guess, with the worst, with a poor World Cup showing for his kind of standards, and also losing week 1 against Pro Kappa. But with that said, I knew I could not take him lightly, and he was going to be a strong opponent, and because of that I brought some text out this battle. I'm just going to go over my team really quickly. So the concept behind my team was that I wanted to use a Clefable that kind of disrupted things, and the idea was I wanted to run Calm Mind plus Psyshock. Psyshock helps with a couple of things. First and foremost, it's able to beat other Calm Minders such as Clefable, Pretty Marina, the list goes on. It doesn't do as well against Rio Nicholas, unfortunately, but Rio Nicholas isn't very common. I have a lure that's for Rio Nicholas later on that we'll get to. In addition to that, I also wanted to run something that could help shut down Corviknight, as Corviknight wasn't hit by Psyshock like it would be by Thunderbolt or Flamethrower, the normal coverage moves you see in Calm Mind Clefable. Because of that, and the fact that I was kind of scared I would face some more hyper-offensive stuff, as my playstyle tends to be more susceptible to the kind of type spam hyper offense, i.e. like Urshifu plus Halucha. It does really well against a team like this, or Sun Team could really rattle me if I wouldn't have this. So I actually ran a Choice Scarf Alakazam, which would be able to outrun things like Kingdra and Rain, Venusaur and Sun, or just absolutely shred and revenge kill hyper offensive teams in general. And also you could get a trick off on things like +1 Volcarona, a Calm Minding Clefable, a Calm Minding Rio Nicholas, etc. The goal initially was to just get a trick off on Corviknight, but that didn't actually happen here as I didn't face a Corviknight, which on this structure is kind of surprising, as I feel as if the team is really weak to Excadrill with Toxic, but thankfully for Lycan, that trend has died out a little bit since World Cup due to the surplus of opposing Magnezone for Corviknight, so therefore you don't need to run the dynamic between Excadrill and removers was shifted between now and World Cup, is basically what I'm trying to say. I don't know why I phrased it that way, but basically, with Mandibuzz dying out due to Stealth Rock Clefable, and Toxic on Hippowdon, and a whole slew of other things, Corviknight picked up, but then Corviknight is now being hindered by usage of Magnezone, which is now making Excadrill better and better than ever before. So I was a bit surprised not to see, on this kind of build, where 5 things get devastated by Earthquake, Corviknight, but he was running a very physically defensive variant of Mandibuzz, or at least I think it is. So that makes some sense as well. So I'm assuming right off the bat that it has to have Foul Play, which means it can't one-shot my Alakazam, so if I ever trick it later on, that could come into play as well. What else am I looking into here? Yes, so I also have Hippowdon. It's just a specially defensive variant. Now, I don't have any Defog on this team, and since I have 2 Magikarp Pokemon, and 1 Pokemon immune to Spike, 2 other Pokemon immune to Spikes naturally, I'm actually running Boots on both Hippowdon and Rotom Heat, just so I don't have to take as much hazard damage. And the kind of concept behind this team is that I'm going to be immune to Spikes and Rocks with most of my team, and I can just abuse that as much as I can. So I just have to not let Hippowdon come in on an errant knockoff, for example. So that's really helpful. Also, it's a Nasty Plot plus Painful Rotom Heat. It's a physically defensive, Spikes, Knock, Power Whip, and Leech Seed, Ferrothorn, and last but not least, it was an interesting Hydreigon set. So the idea is that while I do have this kind of special Wind Condition core with Clefable and Alakazam going, I noticed that Lycans never actually used Blissey this generation, and Blissey is a very common Pokemon, so I wanted to exploit that. And I also knew right off the bat that Draco Meteor plus Flash Cannon plus Roost Hydreigon is they're kind of staples right now, given how common Clefable is. So the last move is normally Nasty Plot, and Nasty Plot's very standard on Hydreigon, and there's nothing too surprising there. And I really wish I had Nasty Plot in this battle in hindsight, because I probably would have won the game a bit more handily, or maybe won the game outright. We'll see. I'm not trying to spoil the outcome. But anyway, I actually went with Flamethrower mainly because right now I really need something that Corviknight if I don't trick it. This matchup actually against Corviknight plus a Gastrodon or a Rhyperior or a Toxic Blissey is really hard if I don't get the trick off on Corviknight at the right turn with the Alakazam, because then the Corviknight's able to wall and Clefable, especially for the Iron Head variant, it's able to defog against Hippowdon every time, it's able to defog against Ferrothorn every time. And if you Rotom Heat's the only answer, then A, it's getting shit down by body presses, B, it can kind of suppress Pain Source by leaving everything in the mid-health range, and C, again, things like Gastrodon, Rhyperior, Blissey, or even Chansey. Yeah, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to run fire coverage on the Hydreigon as well. So I ran Roost, Flamethrower, Flash Cannon, and Draco Meteor, and it's going to be very helpful in some matchups, but kind of a win some, lose some in this matchup. Flamethrower against Swadloon, but Nasty Plot would be so great to break, so we'll have to see how that goes. Looking at his team right off the bat, I see Nicholas and I know, okay, I straight up lose to Nicholas if I don't get a trick off with Alakazam. So the first thing I do at team preview is I make sure that I could live a +1 Life Orb side shock from Nicholas, and I always do with the Alakazam, so that's not a worry, thankfully. So what happens is, let's say it's turn 1. He leads with his Nicholas, I lead with my, I don't know, my Hippowdon. My play is simply to go hard to Alakazam on the Calm Mind, or Stealth Rock, and then go hard to Alakazam on the +1 side shock, which I do live, and then go for a trick on the next turn. He's going to kill me probably, but at least then I neutralize the threat. So I know right off the bat that it's already a pretty rough matchup because I'm trading my Alakazam, which does pretty well in this matchup, essentially for an item on the Nicholas. So I can still like come in, soak up hits, soak up status, and I cannot click knockoff with Fire all game pretty much. So I'm not loving this already. However, there are some good things. His talk specs, looking at his team, he can be knock on Clefable, he can be knock on Mandibuzz, he can be knock on Fire. I'm thinking it might not be knock Scald. I'm thinking it could be Toxic or even Toxic Spikes, which does really well with Nicholas. It also would make sense if it was Hex Dragapult, but we'll have to wait and see. Another thing about his team is that he has to be Thunder Wave on a Dragapult, I'm thinking, because look at Quiver Dance Volcarona against his team if he's not Thunder Wave, and if he's Will-O-Wisp. All of a sudden, a +1 Volcarona, it 2-hit Mandibuzz, because it has to be physically offensive for Drill. It 2-hit a, whatchamacallit, 2-hit Toxapex, and not to mention, if it's a substitute variant, then it's going to absolutely obliterate Toxapex even more. Nicholas and Clefable and Fire obviously aren't stopping it either. So I'm thinking, okay, it's probably going to be like Toxic on the, Toxic on the Toxapex. Could be Knock if it's just Mono Foul Play on the Mandibuzz, and then it has to be Thunder Wave on the Dragapult. So that's really my long-term thinking there. Mandibuzz said it has to be Foul Play to Roost Defog. It lasts is either Knockoff, or U-Turn, or Toxic, or Taunt, or Brave Bird, one of them. We'll figure it out. It really depends on his other stats. I'm thinking it's Rock Clefable with either Trick or Knockoff, and it's gonna be Spikes, Knockoff, kind of to be decided type of Ferrothorn. I'm thinking Iron Head or Gyro Ball would make some sense. Specifically Iron Head because he has the he has Toxapex for Flamethrower Clefable, but he doesn't do too well against Thunderbolt Clefable. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, as for Dragapult, yeah, I figured initially I thought it would be Specs, and I looked more and more at the Volcarona match. I'm like, okay, it probably has to be T-Wave plus Dragon Darts, and that'll be enough for it to put into range for anything else. So yeah, as for my team, yeah, I went over that. So let's get into let's get into turn 1 real quick. It's a long game, so buckle up. I lead Rotom Heat. I'm just like, okay, it looks pretty good against this team, but I want to scout for Toxic. So right off the bat, I go to my Clef on the Toxic, and I want to get some Calm Minds up just to see how he's gonna react. He goes to his Unclefable. I'm like, okay, interesting. So I want to see if he's Trick, and I feel like Hippowdon is my most expendable member. So I go to Hippowdon on a Moonblast. It only does 20%. He doesn't Tricking. I go right back to my Clefable here as he goes for Rocks. I'm like, okay, so it's probably not Trick. So at this point, I go for a Calm Mind. I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable with that. He takes 5% there, and he's probably scared of a Calm Mind plus Thunderbolt variant, but he actually goes for the Haze right off the bat as I Side Shock, and this is actually a really favorable 1v1 for him before I get like a knockoff, some spikes up, like maybe a status on it or something like that, but he goes Ferrothorn anyway, so I'm just going to Calm Mind up in his face as he goes for the knockoff, knocking off my Life Orb, which is a good play by him, but I don't mind it too much. I go for Side Shock here thinking he's going to go right back to the Peck, but he reveals Iron Head there, which made a lot of sense. It was why I wasn't super ready to just spam Calm Mind yet, but ultimately I'm like, okay, you know what? I actually have enough Calm Minds where I should go for it anyway at this point. Worst case scenario, I forced a lot of recovers. Unfortunately, he has more Iron Head PP than I do Softball PP, so I gotta be really careful. It's doing like 40 to 45 damage, so it's definitely not super safe, but I get another Calm Mind up here. He goes Iron Head, and thankfully he doesn't crit. I think there were like 2 turns where he could have crit to kill me, but I mean, not really favorable odds. Like here, even a crit's a roll, so yeah. Would have gotten the kill there with that roll, but yeah, anyway, now he's out of crit roller, so I'm more comfortable with this now. He goes Pex here, and I go for the soft boiled safe play. In hindsight, I really want to click Side Shock there, but just wasn't worth the risk. But anyway, I do 67 there, and the good news about that is that with the 2 rolls, I now know he's a very physically defensive pack. So I can go right back to my Rotom Heat there, and now I'm like, okay, I want to go for the Nasty Plot here, because I think there's a chance, there's just an off chance he might be, he might not Calm Mind up into me, because he's scared of pursuing this 1v1 when Nicholas looks like just sweeps his team. So I thought he'd go to Dragapult. And Dragapult's like the main threat to his team and my team, which I'll get to more later. So I thought that Nasty Plot was a play, because I baited into Dragapult and then I could do Pain Split up there. But in hindsight, I think I had 2 better plays. One would be just going hard Alakazam. Going hard Alakazam is not good if he goes to Dragapult, but I still have my Hippowdon at 80%, so that's fine. Going hard Alakazam covers the Calm Mind though, and I really didn't think he'd pursue this 1v1 because he has Dragapult at full health and this Reuniclus is great, but I'm like, okay, if you want to do this now, you do this now, it's fine. So I want to make sure he's Life Orb and not like Shadow Ball or anything like that. I don't go Zam now. I go for the Discharge there. I'm like, okay. I go Alakazam, and now at least he's scared of like, say, a Life Orb Shadow Ball or something like that, so here I go for the Trick, and I kind of wish it was all turn earlier and I didn't bother going for the Nasty Plot Discharge sequence, but that's fine. So here I have to go for the Trick, and again I go for that aforementioned sequence where I'm basically trading my Alakazam for the Reuniclus. But he doesn't want to do a trade. He just goes for a Recover. So now I've got a Life Orb Alakazam, and that's like amazing for me. So I get the Recover up here, and like, okay, in the long term I want to trick this Bandabuzz to Life Orb, but not quite yet. He goes for the U-turn here as I go to Clef, and he goes right back to Toxapex to get a Regenerator, which is a smart play. I go my Alakazam now. At this point, I know he's not knockoff, so I'm like, okay, this is great. This is free Alakazam food. So, despite the Reuniclus matchup being dire, I managed to get out of it, and due to what I consider a mistake on his end, I actually feel like I came out of it really strong. I go with Powdon here now in the Reuniclus, and he goes back to Toxic. I can't let this take a Toxic at this point in the game, so I'm just going to go right back to Alakazam. He goes Toxic, I'm like, okay. That's fine. He goes Reuniclus here, and he takes a Life Orb Psychic for 30%. I'm like, okay, that's good damage. I like that damage. I go right back to a Powdon here now on the Recover from him, and now I can get my Rocks up. And they're probably going to be up to stay, because he already has a Rock and a Spike up, so I don't see him wanting to defog. Although he might notice that pretty much everything in my team's immunities. Anyway, I got my Pharaoh, and his Pharaoh just wanted to scout out what he could do, force some damage onto it. Initially, I was going to knock it off, but I did not want to knock it to Reuniclus. That would be very bad for my long-term chances in this game. He goes Pex, though, and I think I just go for a Spike here, and then I go for one Leech, knowing, okay, I'm fine needing that burns if it's just one. I really need to get some health back, and ultimately it was worth the risk because it didn't burn. He goes Dragapult here, and I really want to knock off, but I went to Zam. Oh, man, I didn't risk the burn, and that was a really great play by him. But I'm thinking, okay, my Hippowdon still walls this. Like, I know he's now heavy-duty boots given that switch, and on top of that, look at the Volcarona matchup if he doesn't have Thunder Wave. Like, I'm fairly certain he's going to be Dragon Darts, Thunder Wave, Hex, U-turn, which is by far the most common set right now. Will-O-Wisp is still used, but I really think on a team this Volcarona week you need to have Thunder Wave. So this is my logic. I'm like, okay, Hippowdon is very safe. So I am coming on to Hex. It literally does 20%. So I'm like, okay, so yeah, he's got he's modest, but he's not like doesn't have a ton. He goes for Wisp. I'm like, oh, fuck, this is so bad. Yeah, this is absolutely dire circumstances now. My team is really weak to not necessarily Specs Dragapult because I can switch around that, especially with the Powdon, but any Will-O-Wisp Dragapult is going to do very well against this team. Specifically ones that are like plus special attack. And the reason for that is that Hippowdon, it is a good check, but Will-O-Wisp, it wears it out. It forces Slack off so much, and you can't really wear it out if it's got heavy-duty boots. I don't avoid a displaced that item. I don't have like a knockoff Toxapex or something like that, so it makes it a huge threat to my team. And seeing as it's also faster than everything now, I know I'm in for a long game. Between this and the pressure from Reuniclus initially, I wasn't loving this matchup, but I do have some regrets in my team choice in hindsight. I mean, I thought that I wanted to use something a bit more proactive, but it was really hard getting the right ideas in place. For example, something I really wanted to use was Subcommand Primarina, and thank God I didn't use that, because that would have matched up very poorly against Psyshock Reuniclus plus Toxapex plus Iron Head Ferrothorn. So I'm glad I didn't do that, but it's okay. I knew right off the bat that I was going to be in some trouble here now against this Hex Dragapult, so I had to play very well. I had to get all the health down in this as soon as possible, and I had to figure out the fourth move on the Clefable. Right now, I'm thinking it's almost definitely got to be knockoff, because again, look at the drill matchup without knockoff. Like, imagine games leftovers all game. It really just takes, like, you know, a timely flinch on the Mandibuzz, and the game pretty much ends. So I feel as if it's probably knockoff, just to get some chip on that. And looking back at it, it could be knockoff on the Mandibuzz and maybe a different move like Wish on the Clefable. So I also knew that was like kind of in possibility in the back of my head, so I had to play it safe, is basically what I was saying. So I didn't want to take any big risks, but this Dragapult definitely forced my hand. I mean, look at the matchup here. Dragon move kills Hydreigon. Ferrothorn is weakened, or spikes up. Rotom Heat's weakened. Clefable status, so hexes to a killing, he's leaving from full. Alakazam slower, dies, and then there's just Hippowdon. So I'm like, okay. This Pokemon essentially 1v1s everything. It has a strong-ass Hex, which the only thing I have to switch into dies to his other stab, and it's probably Dragon Darts, not Draco, so he's not even going to -2. This is going to be rough. And here's what happens. He goes for the Wisp, and I'm like, okay. He U-turns, and I'm like, I gotta get the full so I can live 2 Hex. So I slack off knowing he's gonna U-turn there. He doesn't want to waste all of his Hex PP and take sand damage in return. He doubles to Mandibuzz from Clef. As I go to my own Clef, just like, okay, at this point I need to feel that out. He U-turns. Him revealing U-turn, I think that was the second U-turn, but yeah, him revealing U-turn means he's probably not knockoff. He has to be foul play. So I'm like, okay, so surely it's not Clef, right? At this point, that's what I was thinking basically. I was trying to do process elimination with sets. Anyway, I go Hydreigon here, and he goes for a knockoff, predicting the Rotom Heat, but he catches my Hydreigon. I don't need the Life Orb in this game, because Flash Cannon 2 kills this Clefable regardless, almost always. And he's got to be physically defensive. And on top of that, Mandibuzz, well, Mandibuzz is going to wall me regardless. I'm not Nasty Puppy. He doesn't have to know that, so he doesn't have to bring it in yet. So I'm like, okay, and Flame still kills Ferrothorn, of course. So I don't need the Life Orb. If anything, the Life Orb hinders me, so that's totally fine with me. I Flash Cannon there, as you see. I get the roll. It was a very favorable roll. Now I go Rotom Heat here, predicting him to go to Mandibuzz or to the Ferrothorn, as he sees Flash Cannon. So that means I get a Pain Split up, and he goes Clef. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm at 51, which is really cool. So that helps a ton. Now, I go for a Discharge here, predicting the Dragapult. I need to get damage off, and a Paralysis would be huge, and I get the Paralysis. And that's amazing, because now it's no longer quicker than Alakazam, Hydreigon, or Rotom Heat. I go to my Hippowdon anyway. He goes for X, and he gets absolute max damage. It's like 45 and changes max, and or maybe 46 and changes max, so it's not absolute max, but yeah. I go to Hydreigon, predicting another Hex. At this point, I'm like, okay, so Hippowdon at full health is really Hippowdon at 94%. So if I slack up to 100, it takes 6% from the burn. If max damage is in the 46s, that means they'd have to get absolute max twice to kill me. And he got it the first time, and I really just didn't feel like risking it. I felt like he had to go for Hex again there, especially since I was at 43, and that's like closer to a mid-roll. So I go to Hydreigon. I know he's not going to let the whatchamacallit go to Dragapult go, so I go for the Roost. And now he knows I'm Roost, so he thinks that I'm probably not Flamethrower, which is helpful to me. He goes U-turn anyway with the Mandibuzz, and now I'm like, okay, so he's going to Clef. I'm not sure why he's going to Clef, and I mind up like, okay, I'll take advantage of this, but then he goes for the Aromatherapy, and I'm just like, crap. I really didn't think it'd be Aromatherapy because, well, A, without knockoff, I mean, Drill just comes in on this every single time, and B, on top of that, I mean, Pex is a status absorber, Clef is a status absorber, and Reuniclus is a status absorber. Like, they all eat Scald Burns and Toxics galore. Like, I'm not trying to question One True Lycan's tactics because it clearly works in this scenario, but it wasn't something that really crossed my mind during the game. I thought it was almost definitely going to be knockoff. If not, then it was going to be Wish. So that was really clutch for him. And again, I'm not trying to undermine his sets, but rather I'm saying I think that going for the Discharge back there and fishing for the Paralysis plus getting damage was always the right play. But if I knew he had Aromatherapy, then, I probably would have played it differently. So this is an example of someone saying, okay, I'm going to take a risk, and maybe I want knockoff, but I don't necessarily need it. I really want Aromatherapy for a specific matchup, and maybe Dragapult getting paralyzed, and it worked out really nicely here. And you got to commend people for taking risks like that. And One True Lycan, I gotta say, he took some nice risks, not only in the game, but also in the builder, and that's really cool on his end. So that's definitely something that I like highlighting about these games, and things like Smogon Snake Draft. It feels like players are kind of accelerating team building in the metagame and saying, okay, I'm okay being a little weak to X so long as I'm very strong against Y. Or I'm okay being very weak to X so long as I'm very good against like multiple Ys, for example. It's kind of risk versus reward, which is more of a gameplay concept, but instead of it being in gameplay, it's in team building. And I hope that a lot of my newer reviews, because I know a lot of new players watch these, can kind of understand that. Anyway, getting back into the game here, I get my +1/+1 Clef, and he goes Ferrothorn. I'm like, okay, that's chill with me. He takes Hazards all the way. I go Sash Shot predicting the Pex, because Ferrothorn doesn't really 1v1 me. I can actually like softball up most of these, but I don't want to pursue this and lose all my softballs yet, so I just go to my Ferrothorn here, and he goes Leech. Now, I don't understand why he went for Leech. If he's predicting a switch to a non-Ferrothorn, then, well, I guess Leech was predicting Hydreigon, but he didn't think I had Flamethrower, and we'll get that later. If he's predicting Rotom Heat, he goes for Knock. If he predicts me to stand, he goes Iron. If he predicts me to go to Alakazam, he goes Knock. If he predicts me to go Hippowdon, he goes, Knock. Yeah, he definitely goes Knock. So that Leech didn't really make any sense to me, but I'm fine with it. I just want to go for another Spike here because he had to go Reuniclus predicting the Knock, and I'm like, okay, I'm not letting that happen. He goes Focus Blast there, and I get my Clef back in. I dodge it. That's cool with me. He goes Pex. I'm like, okay. I know it's Helmet Pex. It's got to be like max physical defense. I confirmed it based off the Slash Attack damages, so I don't want to pursue that quite yet. I get into my Hippowdon because I know I'm quicker, and I stomach a Scald. Even a crit Scald, they would have lived, but it might have been a roll off their burn damage. So I'm like, I'm glad I didn't crit that, obviously. Anyway, after giving that roll, I wouldn't have died to a crit even. But yeah, I could heal up here, which is really cool. Now at this point, I go back to Hydreigon, and he just goes for the spikes, and I think he doesn't realize that I'm Flamethrower, because again, most people are Nasty Buddy here, so I just go for the flame, I take him out, and that's huge. That opens up the game for Clef a ton. And I have 12 Psyshock and 10 Softballs left, and look at him. He has 15 recover left, so I have to force those recovers to go down, down, down as quick as possible. And he goes Dragon Pulse. I'm like, okay. It was kind of a 50-50 here, because I can go Dragapult, or I could go, Dragapult on the Dragon Darts, and I'm in great shape. But if he goes for Hex or U-turn, it's kind of lame. And at this point, I don't really feel a need for the Hydreigon, admittedly. If I could go back, I probably would have just fired off the, nah, actually, I think this was the right play. I mean, look, he now knows my full set, so he knows for a fact that Mandibuzz just sits there all day, because now Life Orb Draco is not doing 50%. And on the off chance that he overpredicts, it was the right play. Yes, I'm fine with that. As he takes me out. And it also reveals his Dragon Darts, and not Draco Meteor, which is helpful information. I go Clef now, I'm just like, okay, I think I can win this game. What I have to do is I have to force out the recover. So for example there, just taking a Moonblast with all those spikes, he's down to 57. I get Sand up here, and I can force the recover, and then he's taking Sand damage. So all of a sudden he's not even going to regenerate back to full. In between Sands and Spikes. So I get a Slack off there, and he just goes for the Scald. And wasting Scalds is important too, because if he runs out of Scalds, then all of a sudden Clefable can kind of just not take any damage from it either. And I kind of force a stalemate between Hippowdon and Clefable. But he's gone for Scalds. I went for an Earthquake, just trying to force it down health-wise. Okay, I really don't want to risk Alakazam quite yet, because I'm scared of a double to Dragapult, because he's still able to live an Earthquake comfortably from 56, seeing as I'm burnt. So I want to play this smart. I go Slack off here. I think he's going to go for the recover as well. So A, I forced another recover there, and B, I'm now at 94, which is a good number, because I should be able to eat 2 hexes so long as rolls don't go haywire on me. He goes Scald, and he crits into my Clef. That's fine. I go Calm Mind. I just want to kind of feel out the sequence again one more time. I'm not at a point where my PP is super limited, so I go Calm Mind, I go for a Soft Boil, that's Scald crits, and then Scald hits regular damage. I'm at the full health, and now I'm like, okay, he's comfortable staying in, so I'm gonna go Alakazam. He goes for a Haze, so I don't even take Scald damage, which is great. He goes Mandibuzz now, and I go Focus Blast predicting it. I do 44, so this says he's like, I either rolled low, or he's got some special defense, but even if I rolled high 2 times, the odds of me killing were very, very slim if he's got no special defense, so I'm not trying to like complain about that, no, not at all. But rather, I'm trying to say that at this point, I wasn't too sure of his spread. And given that, I didn't want to like try and like play the game, but oh, I'm going to trick this. I wanted to trick this, because A, that gives him the Life Orb, but B, it means he has no heavy-duty boots. Him having no boots is huge for me. So I trick it, and he goes for a foul play, and I don't understand why he went for the foul play. Let's say I Focus Blast it again. I leave him at 16%, or 12%, or 10%, or whatever it might be, depending on what I roll. That's in KO range. Focus Blast was a 2 KO here. I could have potentially killed this and still had my Life Orb intact, which, look at the remainder of his team, so that's huge. But I went for a trick there, and maybe predicted that? I'm not quite sure. But at this point, he's at 46, and I'm at 14, which is in range for Toxic Scald and everything. So I'm like, okay, let's think this through. Him going for Foul Play again means that he's at 36. Him being at 36 means he's in range for Moonblast. After Stealth Rock, he's in range for Rock Slide. After Stealth Rock, he might be in range for Power from Ferrothorn, and he's definitely in range of Rotom Heat. So he's not going to get in much more if he's at 36 when he kills me. So I'm thinking, okay, now that I don't have Life Orb, I can't actually threaten him. So therefore, he's going to go Roost here, because Roost means that once my Ferrothorn dies, which is going to happen very soon, because it's the next Dragon Ball fighter. Look at my team. I need Hippowdon to check it. I need Alakazam. Well, I don't really need Alakazam. Alakazam could be the next fodder, but Alakazam is the thing that's in right now, so let's excuse that. Obviously, I need Clefable. It's like the win condition, the staple here. And Rotom Heat, again, it does very well against him if you're able to get rid of Dragon Ball, and Dragon Ball's already 56. I'm like, okay, that's all fine and well. Ferrothorn is definitely going next. I think that's a foregone conclusion at this point. So I'm thinking, he has to Roost, so I'm going to recover here. But I'm not sure if he called that play, or if his sense of priorities was maybe different than mine. And if so, then that's completely fine, because we all view the game very differently. And he goes for the foul play as I go for the recover, and it kills me, obviously, because, it's an Alakazam at 64% against a super effective foul play, so yeah, it dies. I go Rotom Heat here, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just try and go for the trade, and he lets it happen, and that's what I kind of don't get, because I thought that having defog there in the long haul actually would have been good for him, because the only thing in my team that actually takes hazard damage is Ferrothorn. Meanwhile, his Pex takes hazard damage every single time it comes in. And I think he probably would have won the game if he got a defog off. That's what I'm trying to say. But that's neither here nor there. So I get the discharge off. That's all fine and well. He goes Pult. I'm like, okay, I live a Dragon Darts always. He goes for a Hex instead of that and gets a crit. And I Pain Split up. I'm like, okay, that crit actually helps me quite a bit. He's at 29 now. So it's like in overheat range, which is cool. I go Ferrothorn now. I'm like hoping he... I'm at 30. So Hex is like slightly a roll, but it almost always kills, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Like, he'd have to roll absolute min, so I'm not risking it there. I figured he'd go Dragon Darts. I go Pharaoh either way, though, because like it's dying to have Dragon Darts into Hex, or Hex into Dragon Darts, whatever the hell it would be. Hex into Hex, and he goes Hex into Hex. That works. So now I bring in Hippowdon. I'm like, okay. He goes U-turn. That's fine with me. He goes into Clef. I just went for the Earthquake. He Moonblast. I'm like, okay, I need to get back to full health. So I do that. And now you're seeing how well Willow's Drag Bolt is. Like, it's like shit. Like, you know, I go Clef here, but I'm running low on Softball. I'm only at 9. So I'm like, okay, he goes for Moonblast there, smart play. I Calm Mind up, and I'm surprised he's staying in to pursue this more than one turn. So I go Calm Mind here. That's fine. I go Side Shock there, predicting the Pex, and he goes for another Moonblast. I'm like, okay, he gets a crit and a drop. And now, this kind of annoys me, I guess, because, well, A, let's say I Calm Mind again there. All of a sudden, him at 47%, he's in range. Like, he dies. And if I Side Shock on a Pex, it's into a kill range. Like, I feel as if after I get the first Calm Mind up, there's no point in ever staying in. Because right now he's playing a game where he clearly is in the lead. He even has Rear Nicholas that he can just fire off at any given time. And I felt as if that was a really surprising risk to take. But it worked out. And the thing is, if he didn't get the crit or the drop, I could actually have Calm Minded up again in front of his face and then put more pressure on Toxapex. And even if I don't kill the Toxapex, I know it's sweep, which maybe it doesn't happen because Side Shock rolls, you know, even at +3, Side Shock's not doing more than like 65%. I forced like 2 or 3 more recovers with that. That's huge. So that was a really unfortunate turn there, because all that recover PP goes a long way. I softballed up here, but now I've lost my special defense, and you get the drop again. I'm like, okay, this is a really annoying sequence. Get the hell out of here. I have to waste another softball as well, so not only am I not wasting his, but now I've had to waste 3 more of mine, and that's going to come and bite me in the ass in the late game. I go Rotom Heat here knowing he can't kill me, and it doesn't have knockoff, which again is good for me. And now I'm like, okay, this is great. I can force his hand. He goes Dragapult, and I wish I went. I was so close to going for Overheat there, which would have put him into a kill range for Sand, but I just Pain Split, and that's fine. It leaves him at 20. I wasn't really a 50-50 at this point. It was more of a weighted 50-50 that heavily favored this line of play, because I didn't even kill him with Overheat, and I would die to Moonblast, so it just made the most sense. So I think we both made a really good play there, especially him, Dragapult, getting that in. It forces the threat, of course. Now I go with Powdon here. He lets it take Sand as he goes for X, and thank God he doesn't get absolute max damage, so now as long as he doesn't get max damage again, max damage here, I'm fine. But even then, I think it was like a 1 in 16 they kill from that range, so yeah. I go for the Slack Off. I don't actually know his specific investment, so I could be wrong. But anyway, I go to Slack Off, and he goes Side Shock, and I Slack Off one more time. I'm able to stomach that hit. That's cool with me. Now I go Clefable. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to waste even more softballs after wasting some before, but Nicholas still is kind of annoying to my team without Hydreigon or Alakazam to kind of heal up on it. So yeah, that's the one downside. I let him go to Alakazam, which really plagued me, because Alakazam would just came in and just won the game from there. So it not won the game per se, but it would have potentially forced his hand, if that makes sense. So yeah, I go Side Shock there. He slacks off, and now we're in a bit of a stalemate. I Side Shock again. He recovers. He hazes there though. Yeah, so it's fine. I come out again. I'm just trying to force recovers more. And again, if I force like 2 or 3 more, he'd only be at like 10 right now or 9 right now. So that would have been great. But he seems to be playing loose. He seems to be going for Scald a lot. I'm like, okay, I could go for a crit here, but I don't really want to. I want to go come on and just continue to make sure I force more recovers. See, he goes for one there, and I go Side Shock here, and that one crits, which is cool. It's just I was kind of do a crit after he got one, like much less attacking chances. So yeah. Come in there, he recovers. I'm like, okay, I'm fine wasting all of my Side Shock if that means I'm wasting all of his recover, but at this point I'm bleeding out of Side Shock and Soft Boil, but he's not, so I kind of have to call it quits eventually. But I don't really have a great switch. Hippowdon's running low on Slag Offs itself, there's only 7 left, and the Rotom Heat's in range for Scald, so I'm kind of cornered at this point, which is really why I wanted to force those extra recovers on it, so it's like a bit of a pain in the you-know-what. but that's okay. I go pout on here, I'm like, okay, at least if I force sand damage on it, that'll help as well. And also I'm forcing Scald PP, and he only has 14 left, in between 7 Slack Off and 5 Softball, I can easily stomach that. I go Earthquake here, so he goes Clef, I'm like, okay, that's fine with me. Clef is like the least problematic presence of the bunch at least, so I could go Ronin Heat on it potentially, so that's helpful. He goes Moonblast there. I Slack Off. At this point, he Moonblasts again, and I Slack Off once more, and that's helpful for me. I'm with a full. I'm only at 5 Slack Offs left though, so that's really problematic. He goes Rune Nicholas here, and I go Rotom Heat, predicting the Moonblast. I'm not sure why I went Rune Nicholas, but that works out nicely for me. I go Pain Split. I get all the way up to full. That's great. But he goes Side Shock. It does 36, and now I go Discharge. I just want to take this out, because if I don't take this out, every time it comes in, it just gets off more Side Shocks. And I don't have enough PP with my recovery move, so I'm forced to basically take this out. I get power. Obviously, I don't get full power, because we can't have nice things in this world. But thankfully, I remain outside of Sand Range, so you didn't get max damage Side Shocks twice, and then I take it out with Overheat, so that's cool. Now we're in a 3-3 game, but Dragapult's able to take me out. I go Powder here, because I don't know if he's got attack investment yet, or not, because an uninvested U-turn actually has a good chance of not killing me, but I can't risk Rotom Heat at this point, so I go Powder here. He goes Hex, and I'm glad I got the other way, and he gets min with Hex to there. I don't even have to worry about it to a kill unless he gets a crit there, and he takes another Stand turn. He U-turns, so I'm like, okay, thank God. I Slack Off, but I'm running very low on Slack Off. This is getting dangerous, like very dangerous. I go Clef here. I really can't waste more Slack Offs, and I know I'm fine because 2 Sand turns could kill the Dragapult. So at this point, I'm like, okay, not being full to Clip out on. I go Calm Mind into the Clef again, and he Moonblast, and he doesn't get the drop. So at this time, I'm like, okay, maybe this is my chance. He goes Pex. He takes the hazard. Side Shock wouldn't even Tokyo here. I Calm Mind again because of that, just to try and force another recover. But look, he still has 9 of them left, and I only have 5 Side Shocks. So I get the 43% off there. He slacks that off. I'm like, okay. And I get 45% there. He recovers. I'm like, okay, that's chill with me. And our Side Shock again there, 44%. Like, this is great. He's letting me get +2 off instead of hazing. That's amazing. And I get another one there. So I feel as if he really mismanaged that, because he would have lived the +2 Side Shock into a +0 Side Shock. I mean, he basically wasted 1 recovery in that sequence. That's chill with me. But he's still at 6, and I only have 1 Side Shock left, so that's really bad. And I don't have much ability to like switch around. So what I have to do here is I have to chip him down with Moonblast and Calm Minds now. He goes Scald, and I feel like he should be hazing there instead of Scalding, but he does still have 13 left, so it's not like a huge deal. Basically what I'm trying to say. I don't really think it's a misplay so much, just like I kind of like personally disagree. Forcing the damage is just doesn't do much, because Scald at +1, and now he's catching on and going for the haze, you could say. So yeah. But I see Scald is doing like 10% to a +1 Clef, and this is even a max HP Clef. I run like more defensive Vs, and I run some speed for Corviknight on this. So yeah, but anyway, he hazes, and now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go up Powder on. I need to force some Sand damage on this, maybe force more recovers, eat some Scald, Slack Off, it's fine. I can't keep staying with the Clef. I'm hemorrhaging my PP. But unfortunately, Powder is doing more of the same. I don't really have a great out here at this point. I go for the Slack Off, and Slack Off one more time, just trying to burn the Scald. So he goes Scald again, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't really look great for me. I'm not gonna lie. I go back to the Clefable. He goes to his own Clefable. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be annoying. He's gonna fish for Moonblast again. Hopefully he doesn't get it, and he gets it there. I'm like, yeah, and I'm running low on Calm Minds at this point too. I only have 9 left, so that's not great. He goes Pex now, and yeah, that's the right play. I think I just go for Softball. I gotta get healthy anyway, so I might as well. And I go for another Calm Mind here. He goes for the haze. Good play there by one for Lycan. I go for Moonblast though. He's got no Black Sludge, and he's at pretty, like, he's like almost max physical defense, if not max physical defense. So I'm doing 13% each time, and that's huge. Because he only has 5 recovers left. Excuse me, sorry. Oh, why is this stuck over the screen? There we go. But yeah, anyway, now, oh, what happens here? Wait. Pause. Please pause. Why is it not pausing? Ooh, this is like frozen. That's not good. What we have here? What is going on? Well, my OBS is working, but this seems to be frozen. Alright, we're 139, so let me just reload the replay real quick. It's coming, guys. Give me a second here. Hopefully it's coming anyway. Oh, well, it loaded, but I already refreshed, so. Alright, we got a little 10-second interim as I get to the right turn, so you guys can go ahead and take a bite your popcorn, whatever the fuck you're doing while you're watching this. You know, 130. Let's go 136. Yeah. Oh no. No, come on. Let me skip the. Let me go. Come on. We're not going through all these turns 1v1. 136. All right. So yeah, I'm at this point where I'm chipping his Toxfix down with Moonblasts. If it ever gets there, because it's gonna take a second to load now. So basically, the idea is that if he gets greedy, he doesn't use his recovers, which he already should have like 2 or 3 left, and he really doesn't want to use the last like 4 or 5 recover for V. I get it, because then he actually loses 1v1 just to Moonblast straight up. Then all of a sudden, I actually can like, yeah. So here, I keep pushing him down, and he doesn't recover, and I'm at the point here where I'm like, okay, if I come mind here, he's gonna scald into me, and he's like actually kind of forced to haze or recover here. So I go run him heat knowing there's no chance until he scalds, and he hazes, and I'm like, okay, this is great. So now, there are a lot of plays I can do here. If I discharge, min on Toxfix that's 0 special defense is 44%. There is upwards of a 75% chance for me to kill this. If he goes Clefable and I Pain Split, I just win. The game ends. Like, I'm not even in Dragon Dart range anymore. The game just ends. And if he goes to Dragapult onto Discharge, then that dies, and I just Pain Split up on either of these guys and I win. So I found the opening. I'm like, oh, thank God. I just have to get one of either 1 or 2 turns right. If I Discharge here and he goes Clef, then it's just another 50-50, because I could just Pain Split up into it, or I could Discharge the Dragapult, predicting the Pain Split. So this is the logic here. If I Discharge and he stays in, the game ends. Clef wins. If I Discharge and he goes Dragapult trying to like predict the Pain Split, I win. If he goes Clef and I Discharge, then we're in a sticky situation. He is still in range where I can Pain Split and be healthy. But if he goes Dragapult on that Pain Split, then I can lose. So this is a pure 50-50. But Discharge is the safer play, because if I Discharge into Clefable, then the game doesn't end on the spot. So if I Pain Split on the Toxfix and he scalds, I die. If I Pain Split on the Dragapult, then it's a really bad situation. So I Discharge, and he goes Clef, and I get a crit, which actually really hurts me because now I Pain Split less health up. I really didn't want that crit. Para, whatever. He's got whatchamacallit. He's got aromatherapy, but the crit, I really didn't want that crit. So now I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, well, if I Pain Split into this, I still am in a really good position. And now that I got the crit, I'd still be in Dragapult range, so maybe he's more conditioned to stay in. And if I Discharge, again, he's never going Pex here, so it's just Clef versus Dragapult. If I Discharge a Dragapult, I win the game. But I'm in Moonblast range, I really can't risk that. So what I do here, ultimately I decide Pain Split's best, and he wins the second 50-50 in a row. This one was like a pure 50-50, and that sucks, because now I'm well behind again. I gotta try and provoke the same sequence, and I'm running out of PP. I go to the pow down here, and he makes the right play, goes for U-turn, and at this point I'm like, yeah, he probably has the attack investment if U-turn's gonna kill me, so I lost both 50-50s there to win the game, and now I've got to find a way to get in that same position again. But I don't think he's going to let me, because that was like a big mistake of his, not going for recover at any point in that sequence, so that I could kind of leverage myself to get into rotom heat, basically. But that's neither here nor there. He goes to Clef just trying to aromatherapy up, because he has it, and he can, and he will, and why not? I just want to slack up off, because, you know, I kind of have to at this point. I only have 1 slack off left at this point, so I'm like, okay, this is bad. In hindsight, maybe going rotom heat there could have been the play, but the issue is that if he Moonblasts, I lose, and the Earthquake didn't even 2 kill him. So like, yeah, I kind of didn't think he'd go for aromatherapy. I kind of thought he'd go for Moonblast, just because, especially since I only 1 slack off left. But yeah, no, I couldn't risk it at that point. So now I'm really behind again. I managed to pull some out of my ass, but yeah, now I'm behind. He goes Moonblast, and thankfully at least he doesn't get the drop. I go Come Mind here, and he goes Moonblast again. It does 19. I'm like, okay, this is cool, this is cool. I go for the Come Mind again. I'm like, okay, we gotta just go for broke at this point. And he gets Moonblast, and I'm like, okay, at this point, I could Psyshock predicting the packs, but if he Moonblasts again, I'm fucked. So I just go for the slack off here. I'm like, okay, maybe I can get a rotom heat sequence in again, or maybe I could get a crit with Psyshock, because I've had like 5 or 6 chances to get that crit. But no crit. I'm like, okay, another Now I'm out of Slash Shock, so I just gotta try and Moonblast him down as much as I can. He goes Haze there, but now he's only at 4 recovers. And this is what annoys me, because like he should be at 1 or 2. But now he goes another one there. I'm like, yeah, man, he should be out. And I actually would just win the game with Clef's Moonblast here. But unfortunately, that's not the case. I go up out in here. I'm just trying to force the extra recovers down with the sand, but I'm out of Slack Offs once I use one more. So it looks like it's pretty over at this point, unfortunately. I'm just trying to find any way to just cling on to just a sliver of hope at this point. He goes for another recover, so now he's got 2 left. I'm like, I'm just kind of bothered. He's like, I so had this game, but I'm trying to focus all my energy on trying to pull it back at this point. But I only have 2 softballs and 4 Kamai's left, and he's got a million hazes, and he still has recovers left. He goes for Moonblast there, and I Kamai'd, and now he goes back to Pex, and I'm like, all I can do is just Kamai'd again, and Moonblast. In hindsight, Moonblast there might have been better. The difference between 1+1 and +2 Kamai'd isn't too big, but it really didn't make a big difference. I go Moonblast there again. I go Moonblast here again. He recovers up, and now I go for Soft Boiled. He scalds. I'm like, yeah, he only has 1 recover left, and that would really be gone. And I guess it's just going to say that in a long game, anything can happen. There's so many turns where I could get drops or crits. He could get drops or crits, and unfortunately, I feel as if one time when I really gained momentum and I left myself in a good position, he got the crit drop when he really probably should have switched, and that bailed him out a bit there. But now I go Moonblast here, and I go Moonblast again, and for some reason he's not going Pex anymore. Perhaps he only has been recovered. Yeah, that's right. And I go Moonblast here once more, and we both Moonblast. And at this point, I'm like, okay. At this point, I don't really gain anything going for the 1 soft boiled. If I get a drop here, I have a decent chance, I guess. But also, I'm just thinking about a long term here. And if I could let this die, bring in the Rotom Heat, I could force another 50-50. So what I do here is I go for another Moonblast, and I get the drop. And that's huge. He goes Moonblast again, but I really don't get why he didn't recover up here. I guess he's scared of Pain Split, but he could just not kill me. He could just spam Stealth Rock. And look how few PP I have. Like, he could just spam Stealth Rock. And ultimately, like, worst case scenario, he can let the Pex get low. Like, he basically could just switch there forever. And I could eventually be forced to struggle or go Rotom Heat. And if he brings in Pex in the Rotom Heat turn, or if he's got Pex in then I can't Pain Split. He's Scald is too much, Toxic, etc. Toxic me attacks always kills me. So I feel as if he played this too hastily. But I get the drop and I live, which is cool. But now it's like, okay, if I soft boiled here and he soft boils, then I'm screwed. I gotta kill it and then try and maybe find a way to win with my last 2. Because there's no other chance of winning. But I actually I get min with my Moonblast there. Maybe the others were max, I don't know. But if I took it out, would it have made a big difference? Yeah, actually, I think it would have. Because if that's dead, I have Clefable, then he's forced to go to Dragapult to revenge kill me. I go Powdown. He takes sand damage as he hexes. If he wants to go for the 2 kill, fine, but what was I saying? Sorry, if he wants to go for 2 kill, fine, but he dies to the next turn of sand. So he's probably got a U-turn. And all of a sudden, he goes Pex and like, yeah, I've got no slack off left, but I could just Earthquake into it and I could probably win the game. I could get another whatchamacallit, soft boiled up with Clef, and maybe I've got an outside chance of winning the game, especially if I could reset sand again when Dragapult comes in. So I feel as if he really should have just soft boiled and played the long game. I feel as if he rushed this, and I mean, just honestly, I'm a competitor here, guys. I try to win these games so hard because it's a team tournament and it matters a lot to me. So not getting that after you got the crits before, it's just the little things. They really decide these long drawn out games, and you know, it's rough. When I feel like I played a really good game here, besides letting go of Alakazam. This is my honest reflection of the game, honestly, so. But it's fine. At this point, it's over, basically. It's when he lives. I can go to Rotom Heat and revenge kill it, but it really doesn't matter, because he goes Dragapult, and at this point, he can U-turn to kill me, because again, he's indicating he's got the tactic that's when we see him U-turning, so yeah, it always kills there. He hexes, and now he can U-turn. That's actually the better play. Yeah, you're right. And now, like, at this point, there's nothing I can do. I could Earthquake into Pex, but I need a crit. He takes the hazards, but he has another recover left. So yeah, and now it's like, okay, even if I crit Earthquake, it kills after sand, so I go for the Rock Slide Flinch. I should have went for the Earthquake right there, but it really didn't matter. So I didn't crit, so yeah, it's no big deal, but... and now, he went Toxic, which made no sense, because Scald always kills the Padon, or Rotom Heat, and once you get that Scald off of there, then what happens is Dragapult gets to kill another Pokemon, and it kills it before Sand, so it would be 100% win. So I'm not sure why I went Toxic there, in all honesty, but I don't think it actually mattered, because, yeah, again, I try and bait the choke recover, but he doesn't go for it, and that just ends the game there, so... A really long, close game, a good game contra Lycan. I feel like I was really, I want to say favored, yeah, but him getting that timely crit drop, coupled with the fact that, I just ran out of PP. And for the record, at the end, I did get the drop before the roll came into play with Moonblast, which helped me live, so, I don't really consider that bad luck, that ending. You know, he was a very favored ending. He played it fine besides not going for the soft bottom stalling my PvP. I feel like he rushed it, but he didn't maximize that. But, you know, so yeah, I could have gotten either the 50-50s right, and I would have won the game, but I just didn't make the aggressive play when he did. Kind of scratch your head and just say, you know, if you lose to losing two 50-50s and a crit drop, it is what it is. It's really rough, though, because I feel like this team was really well made. Side Shock, Clefable is a really cool tech, and the Trick Alakazam, it worked out, so... It's a shame to see these kind of go to waste, but I'm really excited for the future weeks of this tournament. I'm a bit bummed out now, but it's fine. We'll climb back. We'll claw back for sure. Really tight game. Probably one of the better games of the tournament so far, at least. So that's always fun, but he wins by just a sliver of health. Good game, contra Lycan. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day. All right, peace.